take this opportunity to present APNU's response to the government's budget presentation by the Honorable A.K. Singh, Minister of Finance. Dr. A.K. Singh.
Thank you very much.
On Monday, the 25th of April 2013, under the theme, Overcoming Challenges Together, Accelerating Gains for Guyana. This budget pretends to bring relief to the poor and to those whose incomes are small. But when the measures proffered in this 2013 budget are examined, it is found to be lacking in any serious attempt to ameliorate the lives of those intended to benefit from it. In fact, Mr. Speaker, the budget proposal for 2013 lacks a human face, as it gives a subtle hint at easing the burden on the poor, but does not do so. As an example, all the recruits in the services earn salaries just above $50,000. This threshold would not benefit, or these recruits would not benefit from the 3 1/3% income tax reduction rate. Instead of considering a living salary, wage for all Guyanese, service members included, the government continues to hand out at year-end a miserly 5% sweetener, remember sweets for the kids, to members of the joint services, without any consideration of the unfulfilled needs which poor pay creates. But while the pay increase is denied workers, Gaisuco and GPL will receive over $12 billion as compensation for their inefficiencies, emphasizing the point that this 2013 budget is about bailing out large corporations viewed as too big to fail. The security sector consists of the GDF, the Guyana Police Service, the Guyana Prison Service, the Guyana Fire Service, and the Customs Anti-Narcotic Unit, CANU. The essential role of the GDF in our national security pursuits requires the organization to maintain adequate assets in the infantry, aviation, and maritime arms of the service, in order to maintain a state of preparation to defend our territorial integrity. Allocations to the GDF in this 2013 budget does not inspire confidence that their basic needs for a well-equipped defense force would be met in this budget. The government, through this budget, does not demonstrate any care which it owes to the people. The government boasts that this is the largest budget, that they have been making increases on the GDP, but it is lacking in a humane approach to the men and women in uniform who are responsible for maintaining our public safety. The salaries at entry level are a little bit above $50,000. And this amount offers no satisfaction to the recipients simply because a basket of goods for a small conservative family per month would cost more than $40,000. When this is added to the rent and light bill, the remaining cash in hand would be negligible. Small wonder that the wastage rate in the services is so high. As an example, the figures for the Guyana Police Service for years 2001 to 2003 and from 2007 to 2009 indicates the following. 2001, 374 walked out of the job. 2002, 345. 2003, 320. 2007, 240. Youth. 2008, 318. 2009, 232. With the racist rate running on occasions at 1 man each per day, hamper staffing and consequently the performance of core police functions. The Ghana Police Service between 2001 and 2003 was operating with shortages between 8% and 15%, while between 2007 and 2009, the situation was between 17% and 21.5%. This budget pretends to bring relief to the poor and those whose incomes are small, but when measures of profit in this budget are examined, it is found to be lacking in any serious attempt to ameliorate the lives of those people. In fact, the budget proposals for 2030 lacks the human face as it gives a subtle hint at easing the burden to the poor. As an example, all recruits to the services earn salaries just above $50,000 threshold and would not benefit from the 3% income tax reduction. Instead of considering a living wage for all Guyanese, members included in the government continues to hand out the 5% yearly. Mr. Speaker, the police now seem to be under fire from no other than their own minister, who has recently expressed his unawareness of the number of unsolved crimes on record in the GPS. In an article in Stabroek News dated 18th March 2020, under the caption, "Rui dismayed at long list of unsolved crimes," the Honorable Minister expressed his dismay in the following terms: "I have noted with dismay the long list of unsolved serious crimes, particularly execution-type murders that remain on the records of the Ghana Police Force. We have reached a stage where some members of the public and the press have tended to insinuate that the force lacks ability or will to solve these high-profile cases. The Ministry of Home Affairs is far from happy with this state of affairs. The force would have to review its current investigative capacity and take corrective action. I find it strange that the Honorable Minister could now express his feelings, as he must be aware of the actions taken by the police in the late 1990s after Sanichar and other high-profile murders, to praise their government of shortcomings in the force, occasioned by the loss of certain hard-earned skills through retirement. In the event he has forgotten, I would provide a chronology of events as a reminder. The government of Guyana agreed to secure the assistance of the government of the United Kingdom to assess the strengths and weaknesses of the Guyana Police Service. Chief Superintendent Paul Matthias, as he then was, visited Guyana and conducted a study of the GPS. A report, Larry Lewis, good. A report on his findings with recommendations was submitted to the government. In 2000, the British Department for International Development funded consultants, Simmons Group Limited, released their report on the Ghana Police Force after reviewing it between October and November 2000. Still in 2000, President Barrett Jack Dio promulgated a menu of measures claiming that they would improve the police force's crime-fighting capacity. Same in 2000, President Jack Dio, as he then was, actually went to London to meet with Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police to seek British assistance. 2003, the British government sent the Defense Advisory Team to Georgetown to conduct a study of the security sector and produce a report which recommended ways in which the police force's capability could be enhanced. 2004, the Discipline Forces Commission, under the chairmanship of Justice Ian Chang, presented its report to the National Assembly containing 164 recommendations for police force and other security sector reform. 2005, the British Scottish Police College conducted a series of management training programs. It presented the Guyana Police Force Strategic Plan in partnership with the Inter-American Development Bank as part of the Citizen Security Program. 2006, the British Parliamentary Under-Secretary for Foreign and Commonwealth Affairs, Baroness Mary Amos and President Jacqueline, agreed to a statement of principles which formed the basis on which the British Department for International Development proceeded with the fresh consultancy. A new British-funded security sector reform team visited. In October 2006, and integrated various local and foreign initiatives into a holistic strategy. The PPP administration instead adopted a citizen security program which was to be funded by a $19.8 million loan from the Inter-American Development Bank. 2007, the British High Commissioner Fraser Wheeler and head of the Presidential Secretariat, Dr. Lunsford, signed an interim memorandum of understanding for a security sector reform action plan in August 2007. 2009, the British government decided to abandon the negotiations with the Guyana government for $4.9 million security sector reform action plan in the face of unprincipled resistance by the PPPC administration to previously agreed guidelines contained in the Statement of Principles agreed with Baroness Amos. Government moves to secure the services of Bernard Carrick to train and reform the GPS. This attempt failed as he was imprisoned in the USA. 2009, the promulgation of the Million-Dollar Declaration on Crime Prevention by Clement Rui.
The Honorable.
2010, Mr. Clement Rui stated at an Inter-American Security Government referred another member to say either Mr. or Honorable. Guyana has no desire to have any resident exports in our country at this point in time, nor in the not too distant future either. We have enough exports here in Guyana, in the police force, in the security sector. So we don't need a foreign export to come and tell us. In fact, we have already gone a very far way with the reforms. So I don't know what we need an export to tell us about. When it comes to bringing exports to Guyana for the security sector, that is a no-go. The British Consult Reform, this is 2011, Capital Simmons presented the final draft of the strategic plan for the modernization of the Guyana Police Force to the Home Affairs Ministry on Thursday, 29th of March, 2011. 2012, Mr. Clement Rui made a statement to a press conference on the 21st of December outlining recommendations contained in the Capital Simmons report. Mr. Speaker, this effort, which became known as the Security Sector Reform Project, SSRP, the main measures were designed to enhance intelligence gathering, analysis and dissemination, developing the forensic capacity of the force, create a specialized training center to train ranks in modern crime fighting systems and tactics, improve the material capacity of the force in the short to medium term by procuring new weaponry, transportation, equipment and protective gear, review and update the crime laws to increase penalties for certain criminal activities and facilitate easier prosecution of certain types of crime. Create a special trained crime crack force similar to a SWAT team to respond to these new criminal manifestations and domestic terrorism. Enhance the community policing structure through training and provision of equipment. And closely monitor certain categories of deportees. Accelerate the issuance of gun license to qualified citizens, particularly members of the business community. Ensure that provisions are made for the families of policemen and women killed in the line of duty. Simultaneously, Mr. Speaker, the government was introduced to the Citizen Security Project. They became enamored by and gravitated to it. And as was stated earlier, in 2009, the government abandoned the SSRP and continued with the Citizen Security Program. Under this program, the GPS is to be modernized through computerization of the entire organization. A strategic plan, well, at one time it was 2011-2015. Now it is 2013-2017. Is to be launched, and the leadership team is to be appointed to manage the process. On 31st of December, the Honorable Minister launched the project, which was available since March 2011. According to the Guyana Times of March 31st, 2011, under the caption, Roy receives new plan for a modernized police force. After almost a year of consultations and planning, UK consultancy agency Capital Simmons on Thursday 29th of March presented to the Home Affairs Ministry the final draft of the modernization of the Guyana Police Force. The Honorable Minister only released it then, after the no-confidence motion was passed in the National Assembly and constant pressure on the Minister from APNG. His delay in commencing the program is a timely reminder that, in a timely manner, has set back the modernization, which should have started about 1.5 years ago. During the Minister's launch, he addressed 4 areas: administration, succession planning, probity, integrity, and public relations. The SSRP would have addressed, among other subjects, the development of skills and abilities of ranks in the hardcore police subjects of crime and intelligence gathering, while the Citizen Security Program would get there hopefully through the strategic plan. Nothing said in this presentation should create a false impression that the program has no place in Guyana's plan to effectively manage the crime situation. In my view, it is a necessary intervention, but not a sufficient answer to Guyana's crime problems. Crime is still having a negative effect on the population, whether in their homes, on the streets, at sea, in mining areas. Therefore, lack of urgency in implementing the Citizen Security Program could be regarded as unconscionable and a criminal act against the citizens. The figures displayed for murders and robberies demonstrate my concern. The evidence of the rising rate of criminal violence in Guyana, derived from the police force's own daily bulletins, indicate an increase in the incidence of armed robberies and murders. Reports show that there were 1,701 murders and 11,602 robberies under arm in the decade from the 1st of January 2000 to the 1st of December 2009. There are on average about 3 armed robberies every day and 2 murders every week. Maritime piracy along the waters of the coastline and banditry in the hinterland have been other sources of criminal violence which affect economic activity. Maritime piracy along the water, Mr. Speaker, the government must develop a highly motivated workforce within the GPS to patrol the streets, to prevent and detect crime, and eventually to make the streets safer. The training and nurturing of well-trained detectives to investigate serious crimes must be given priority in the preferred citizen security project. Government has established CCTV cameras in several spots in Georgetown. But despite these crimes are committed, the usefulness of these cameras are questionable, and one wonders what purpose they serve. For example, there are cameras at the corners of Homestretch Avenue. Yes, well, you know what you've done. Well, I need your personal. These cameras serve no purpose. They have not detected one crime there. There was a robbery in Regent Street when the Honorable Minister was surprised and made comments about the Chinese being robbed. Where are the cameras? Millions of dollars spent to establish them, set them up, but the cameras are not serving their desired purpose. Similarly, when the Chinese manager of Selena was attacked and shot and robbed at the seawall a few weeks ago, again, not a camera could help identify the perpetrators. The millions of dollars expended on this project is another government failure to protect its citizens with one of its ill-advised pet projects. Mr. Speaker, the government has misused the system of community policing, where citizens use the government to get a firearm license and then they get scarce on the group flocks. Community policing is a local arrangement between the public and the police in the area, but it has been so bureaucratized that it is now morbid. Yes, because you're wasting money on community policing. Mr. Speaker, never like how they were administered. Mr. Speaker, I question the need to have a community policing coordinator at the Ministry of Home Affairs. This is a function properly performed in Borbice. But every year the Honorable Minister comes to this Parliament seeking allocations to support this mobility. Last year, under capital expenditure, the Minister start $28 million to acquire boats, vehicles, outboard engines, furniture and equipment. Again, this year, that request is repeated at a cost of $19,723,000 for the same items. Mr. Speaker, for a voluntary organization, why is so much resources allocated? Last week, driving alongside a police vehicle, I saw it without a horn. The police vehicles are defective.
You did what, sir?
Pardon me?
You saw it without a horn?
No, the horn is the horn piece of the steering wheel was out. The vehicle was a PHH and another one a PLL. They are all decrepit vehicles. But the police is allowed to or made to perform their duties in these vehicles which should be boarded. While the community policing, the support organization, is getting every year vehicles, new boats, new engines at the expense of the Ghana Police Force. Mr. Speaker, the problem in Guyana with its extensive and unpatrolled borders is that drugs and guns flow into the country easily without any serious effort to arrest the flow. The apparent tolerant attitude of the administration to transnational crime does not aid our cause.
Reject the firearm amendment bill.
The unchecked trafficking in narcotics, trafficking in firearms, petroleum smuggling, and trafficking in persons add to our problems. I will deal with the bill. Through all trafficking, though all trafficking in all cases to which I have just alluded must be regarded as serious, trafficking in narcotics and firearms are by themselves and together areas of serious threat to our safety and security. It is the guns that kill and maim our children and families and contribute to an estimated 3 armed robberies per day. There is also the question of Kanu. Does it have a structure? What are the laws which govern its operation? Is Kanu given resources to deal with its mandate? What has happened to the previously released drug master plan? And would there be an update of the last one, which was launched in 2005? These questions are being asked because there are many issues to be settled before Guyana's response to trafficking can be organized in a manner that gives credibility to our counter-narcotic effort. Now, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, we have issues here to discuss. Let us deal with the much vaunted Bill number 21 of 2012, the Firearms Amendment Bill of 2012. Let me just quote for you. Trafficking in firearms and ammunition, 17A1. If any person knowingly imports, exports, acquires, sells, delivers, moves, diverts or transfers any firearm or its parts and components or ammunition to or from another country, as the case may be, without proper authorization, he shall be guilty of an offense. If any person purchases, acquires, or has in his possession any firearm or its parts and components of ammunition for the purpose of section 1 shall be guilty of an offense. Mr. Speaker, this is all in this bill. This bill does not tell you what is the penalty. Trafficking in person, trafficking in firearms are serious offenses. Very serious offenses. How can you build a bill like this without an offense? Who do they want to vote for it? It must have a penalty. For this bill to mean something, it must have a penalty. So if you think you will bring this piece of paper here for us to waste our time and vote for it, and then come back for another amendment, I'm sorry. No, let me explain that part. But this is part of the budget. Because crime affects.
Honorable member, you are out of time, and I would advise that you direct your comments to the chair and not get distracted.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the member be given 10 minutes to conclude.
Mr. Speaker, with all the hype created in the budget, pronouncements optimistic about increased arrivals of visitors, the crime situation could have an adverse effect on the growth of the tourism industry.
All right.
This issue had been addressed by the Prime Minister Perry Christie of the Bahamas in an article entitled "Crime Could Cripple Regional Tourism" and published in Starbuck News of the 22nd of January 2013. The Bahamas PM argued that this was a problem that was underestimated at the region's peril. It is a major problem for us all, he declared. Nothing that the problem did not only manifest itself in crimes against tourists, which he said has statistically remained limited. He argued that the stigmatization of the entire nation of tourism destinations as crime-ridden enclaves was destructive. Mr. Speaker, I must now turn to some suggestions I have here. This government is not dealing with this issue of crime in a manner which brings safety to the public. How could he have an important area as law enforcement, the improvement of the organization, over a year and a half sitting on it, and then he comes back and berates the ranks for the honorable member, comes back to berate the ranks for not solving crime. Solving crime comes from training and it comes from experience. You don't train a detective today and get him tomorrow to be the best detective. He has to be nurtured. And so it is incumbent on the minister not to sit idly by while Rome is burning and he twiddles with his fingers. And that is why we showed that we had no confidence in him. That is the basic reason, because he did nothing when something was required. Secondly, he must work. Well, movie. Mr. Speaker, the fire department is another area of concern. As you visit areas like Bath Settlement, there is a fire station at Anvoa. But heaven help the residents living in the center of Bath Settlement, on the northern side of the road. If the fire tenders run out of water, there is no subsidiary supply, none. Heaven help them behind there. Similarly, at the new scheme at Diamond, there is need to have subsidiary water supplies, whether they are hydrants or whatever. The wards, for years the fire service has been crying for a fire board. If those wooden structures, as God forbid, goes up in flames, we have another great fire because we have no boat out there. No boat out there to fight the fire. And then if you're attacking from land, there is no hydrant. Ever since the government abandoned or got rid of Georgetown Sewage and Water Commissioners, the hydrants are without a parent. Nobody is responsible for it. There is no water coming from the hydrants. So, in terms of the wharves, you can either fight the fire from land, if you run out of water, or from sea. Mr. Speaker, the fire laws, the building code needs to be revised to give the fire service more clout in dealing with building violations. These issues need to be dealt with, because security is not about simply arresting and charging thieves. It is a total package concerning how you live, the houses in which you live, the prisoners we need to address. There is overcrowding in the prisons. Simply, and we should examine why that is so. Is it because in the prison system, or we are detaining persons who can be otherwise dealt with. We are sentencing women for small joints. And similarly, some young men are in prison for little or nothing at all. Shouldn't we find alternative ways of dealing with these issues so as to reduce the problem of overcrowding and all the other attendant ills which visit the prisons as a result of that? Mr. Speaker, we had a catastrophe in Essequibo last year, at least in August, where because the inmates complained of abuse by ministry officials, they revolted. The worst revolt we have had at the NOC.
Oh, chief.
We have had,
Come on, Mr. Felix. I expect better from you.
and once we had that revolt, we must take it that those in Georgetown have noticed. So the men, what? Don't tell me what is overface, AG. It is not NOC, it's a disturbance of the peace. You must understand that. And the peace was disturbed. In a manner that he couldn't deal with it, and his Minister of Home Affairs, his colleague, settled his hands again. And they read the second that this is what is disturbing on board the building. Mr. Speaker, these are issues of security, national security, which we must deal with as a parliament, as a nation. We cannot have idle people in charge of our security. Mr. Speaker, I will now join my other colleagues who did not support this bill, and to say to those who want us to talk about the budget, that this budget is to supply the inadequacies of inefficiencies. It is to deal with capital projects. So I want to join my colleagues now and say that I do not support this budget. I see no reason to support it. The budget must take care of the needs of the people before we can talk anything about support. Mr. Speaker, I close on this. This aspect of the matter.